Mounce, BBG, chapter 24, sentence 4. Bottom line is, if you look at this first word, the first thing you notice with that eta is, you gotta think, yeah, it's probably an augment, probably needs to be either an epsilon or an alpha. Then you go, do I know a ega? If I were looking for a vocabulary word, that's not working for me. Do I know an ago or og something? Yeah, I know ago, so it's probably a good guess. Then next thing you see is that epsilon nu ending, which not too many things that can be. If we're looking at this as an augment, then we see that it's a secondary ending, it's active, and so therefore with that epsilon nu, especially I'm thinking agagon with an omicron nu. When I see the epsilon, I know that the only possibility is third person singular. So I'm looking at an aorist third person singular from ago, which is I lead. So in this case, he, she, or it led, right? Uh, if I were taking a guess, I'd probably guess it's a he led. I don't see any other, obvious subject, so I'm going to build that into the verb and just go with he led. If I look at auton, I see the accusative ending there, so direct object, he led him. And then you got the prepositional phrase here. That one's pretty easy, to Jesus, right? Or toward, to or toward. So I'm going to run with to for this one. So he led him to Jesus. And then we have Jesus said, and hopefully when you look at this one, that's a vocabulary word you learned early on just so that you could do, easier translation. But in this particular case, you know that Lego goes to arrow, which goes to apon in terms of the stems. So, as an aorist stem, if you got apon, then you got an epsilon here, just like you did here. That epsilon nu tells you it's third singular. And with Jesus as the obvious subject, you're looking for a third singular verb. So that's what you have. Jesus said. And then the next clause or chunk, let's take this as the next chunk. I got a second person personal pronoun. That's easy enough. It's the subject you, and then the matching verb you are, and then hopefully, Simon's not too hard to pick out. And then the next part, the son of John. That's easy enough, right? So, only thing to notice here is when you're dealing with Simon and the son, you notice that the son is also in the nominative, right? So, and son being a noun, what you have with an equative verb like you have here, you have the son being a predicate nominative, right? So whether you translate it as the son of John or John's son doesn't really matter. The main thing I would ask you to notice is that you do have a predicate nominative here because of the equative verb. So that'll take care of that chunk. Then we go to the next one. You, and then again as a subject, and then Cephas, hopefully you recognize, even though Cephas, but Cephas is what you want to translate it with. Then you got the verb. That's really the tough part on this one. Hopefully you look at clay and you go, okay, what verb am I talking about? Hopefully, the only verb I know even like that is kaleo. So if we run with kaleo, which is I call, then we know, since theta is not a normal part of that verb, that that's got to be passive. And with the sigma, it's probably a future passive. And then, of course, with the second person subject, second singular, you're looking for a second singular ending, which is what you have here. In which case, this makes it a future passive, and again, second singular from kaleo. So it's you will be called, right? So as a future passive, will be called Cephas. And then relative pronoun here, which, and they give you the verb, is translated, but hopefully you recognize this is a third singular passive verb there, so that ending. So, and then Peter, of course. So if we go all the way back to the beginning, let's take a look. He led him to Jesus, and Jesus said, "You are Simon, the son of John. You will be called," future passive, Cephas, which is translated Peter.